students. Hello, welcome to another topic. The topic under modules 4 and 5. So this sociological theory or the sociological causes of crime is divided into two parts. But during our discussion for today, I will also divide this lecture, since if I will continue up to the last topic, so it will maybe last at least 1 hour or more. So I will also divide this into two parts. So let's start. So we are now under the sociological causes of crime. So this topic, sociological causes of crime. So sociological philosophers focus their attention on the contribution of society, environment, and social interaction in the development of antisocial behavior. In our previous lessons, in our previous topics, we discussed the biological and the psychological causes of crime. So the biological, the contribution of the traits, the genetics, the genes of your parents or the genes of your ancestors, the atavistic criminalities of our of the past, and the psychological characteristics or the psychological causes of crime, which influences or which we are looking into the behavior of the person, the mental capacity or the mental defectiveness of a person. So now let's proceed with sociological causes of crime, wherein this topic, this theory explains the relationship of the environment in the explanation in the causes of crime. So yes, as what I've said, so it's the contribution of society, the environment, and social interaction in the development of antisocial behavior. So it is divided, this chapter was divided primarily between the social structure theories and social process theories. So in this part, or the part 1 of our discussion, will be tackling all the theories under social process. So social process theories center the discussion on the contribution of social learning theory, social control theory, and social reaction or the labeling theory on the behavior of potential criminals. So we are going to focus only on the social learning process or the social learning processes of a person. Why the environment or the people around him contributes in the causation of crime. So let's start. So introduction. The sociological philosophers focus their attention on the contribution of society, environment, and social interaction in the development of antisocial behavior. So the different sociological theories analyze the institutional arrangement with the society. So it's called the social structure, and the interaction among social institutions, individuals, and groups, that is called the social process, as they affect socialization and have an impact on social behavior or our social life. So theories of this type often focus on the relationship between crime and factors such as social inequality, the influence of peers, a social disorganization in a community, the consequences for an individual of being unable to achieve social success, and the role of criminal subcultures, including gangs. So in this chapter, so we are be talking more on the environment or the circle of a criminal or the social group of a certain person that influences his criminal behavior. So what is social process, or what are social process? what are social process theories? So, social process theories focus on how behavior is learned through social interaction and transmitted among individuals. So, di ba? We interact with other people. We sometimes, when you communicate with that person, so you tend to copy, you tend to adopt, you tend to imitate his actions, the way he speaks, the language you are mostly talking into. Yeah, so there are certain characteristics that when you communicate to a person, there is some behavior that you will acquired, okay? So, this theory also assumes that individuals learned why and how to commit and avoid committing crimes through a process of socialization. So, socialization, you socialize, you interact. So, in that way, you can also you can also determine or you learn how to commit and avoid committing crimes. Diba? In the process of socialization, there are many influencing factors that may affect your decision to commit crime or to avoid crime. Right? So, next. This theory also claims that people learn crime like they learn any behavior, such as riding a bike or playing basketball. So they learn this behavior from significant others, such as from family, peers, teachers, and co-workers. So this theory, this social process theory is like social process theories claims that people learn to commit crime or learn crime like they learn how to ride a bike or to play basketball, di ba? Inga na ka-easy. So if you are a child and if you watch someone playing basketball, you tend to after him, you tend to copy the procedure. So mag-itsa-itsa ka, mag-dribble, so inga na. That is also can be comparable to how you learn crime, diba? So when you are into, so most of or this behavior can be most learned by our like family, the friends, the circles, the peers that mostly influence, especially if that peers are bad influences. Like for example, ingon ang peer imong friend nga kuyog ta kay manisko ta or mo take tag drugs. Nya guman pag kanang ya mo naman tay mga kanang kwarta. So tara mangawat ta. Per kana gong mangawat tag kwarta bahala gamay para di kana di ta masakpan. So ana di ba? So when you are in or when you are socialized or when you are included in the group that influences bad behavior. So you tend to adapt it. Okay? So muna ang social process theories. There is a process whether you commit crime or whether you avoid a crime. Right? So this also examine how individuals interact with other individuals and groups and how the learning that takes place leads to a propensity toward criminal activity. So this also examine how individuals interact with other individuals and groups. So it's how we interact and how the learning that takes place leads to a propensity toward criminal activity. So we tend to have our as we mature, we also have the ability to distinguish right from wrong. So, like what I've said, social processes plays a significant role in whether to avoid crime or to commit crime. Okay? So, these social process theories can be explained or can be social process criminologists operate from a sociological perspective known as symbolic interactionism. So, This focuses on how people interpret and define their social reality and the meanings they attach to it in the process of interacting with one another via language. So, this also emphasizes, so social process theorists believe that if we wish to understand social behavior, we have to understand how individuals subjectively perceive their social reality and how they interact with others to create, sustain, and change it. So the process most stressed are socialization and cultural conflict. That is, they seek to describe undelinquent socialization and how social conflict pressures individual into committing antisocial acts. So this symbolic interactionism plays a big role in shaping the behavior of the person, because they tend to symbolize a certain behavior that also influences by social conflict or by cultural conflict. Okay? So next, this theory emphasizes reciprocal determinism. So what is reciprocal determinism? It is an individual's behavior is influenced by the environment and characteristics of the person. So this sample of the graphic representation of the social process theories. So social process theories believe that an individual's socialization determines the likelihood of criminality, adapt the social process approach to human behavior. So this graphic representation is the three branches of social processes approach. So there are certain theories that explains social processes. So first, we have the social learning theory. So social learning theory, these are criminal behavior is learned through human interaction. So social learning theory assumes people are born good and learn to become criminal. Okay, so let's tackle that one more in the next slide. Next, we have the social control theory. This is the human behavior is controlled through close association with institutions and individuals. So social control theory assumes people are born bad and must be controlled in order to be good. So we'll also tackle that one in the next slides. Next, we have the social reaction theory or the labeling theory. People given negative labels by authority figures accept those labels as a personal identity, setting up a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this social reaction theory assumes that people, whether good or bad, people are controlled by the reactions of others. So these are the three branches of social process approach. So there is a center ang atoang social process approach, or that branch out the three theories that can also be explained under social processes theories. So let's talk about now the social learning theory. So the social learning theory, it was proposed by Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura is a sociologist that emphasizes the importance of observing, modeling, and imitating the behaviors, attitudes, and emotional reactions of others. So from the word learning, you tend to learn the reactions of others. It's either you observe, you model the behavior, you imitate the behaviors, the attitudes, and the emotional reactions. Diba? So that is social learning theory. So it was popularized by Albert Bandura. So social learning theory considers how both environmental and cognitive factors interact to influence human learning and behavior. So aggressive acts are usually modeled after three principal sources. So kani ko nung social learning theory was modeled after three principal sources. So, first, we have the family members. Children who use aggressive tactics have parents who use similar behaviors when dealing with others. So another, we have the environmental experience. Behavior, people who reside in areas in which violence is a daily occurrence are more likely to act violently than those who dwell in low-crime areas. So the mass media, the last is the mass media. The film and television show commonly depict violence graphically. So moreover, violence is often portrayed as an acceptable behavior, especially for heroes who never have to face legal consequences for their actions. So kani ko nung social learning theory. View violence as something learned through aggressive acts called behavior modeling. So, diba? When we tend to, especially if you are a child or if you are an adolescent, if you watch your family members, so diba? In the environment, if you have a bad family members, if you are in the circle or you are in the neighborhood or you are in the community of bad family members or the family members itself. So if your parents use aggressive tactics to other people, or if your parents use aggressive tactics to you, that also applies to other people. So in modern society, aggressive acts are usually modeled after three principal sources. So, muna sila. The most prominent models are the family members. According to Bandura, so muna siya, children who use aggressive tactics have parents who use similar behaviors when dealing with others because they see, diba, it's in our home. We tend to always see our parents, so the way they interact with other people, if you see them or if you observe them that they are aggressive, or the way they speak, they are aggressive, the way they approach, they are aggressive, and when you tend to model that behavior and the parent didn't reprimand you, or ang kanang imong ginikanan, wala ka gi-reprimand, wala ka gi-punish, wala gi-correct among mistake, so you tend to accept that behavior is acceptable. Okay? So, di ba, ang atong giingon is the home is the cradle of our personality. So, it's where our personality starts, it's where our behavior starts, learned, imitated, observed. So, the home or the family members are very crucial when you say into the learning or social learning theory. Next, we have the environmental factors. So, another kuno is the environmental experience. So people who reside in areas in which violence is a daily occurrence and are more likely to act violently than those who dwell in low-crime areas where norms stress conventional behavior. So if the environment or if the neighborhood that you belong to, if they are into the high crime or gitawag na to high crime rate area, so that your area was identified as the most people who commit crimes. So when you learn or when you observe your neighborhood or when you observe your environment, kung unsay normal anang lugar nga ilang pangbuhaton, you also tend to copy that as a child or as a growing child. So you tend because it is what you perceived every day. Diba? Social learning theory is something that the behavior or the reaction, the attitudes, the behavior of the persons around you, especially the environmental experience. So again, you tend to imitate the behavior of the person that surrounds you. Diba? If the environment has low crime rate, so kanang bata or the child grows kanang dili, or the stress or the norms are mura siya kanang kuan ba, ang pagkadako sa bata is normal. He can, or the child can, differentiate right from wrong. The child knows that taking drugs is prohibited. But likewise, if you are into the environment that we can say that drugs are very rampant, so every day ang bata makakita nga mauna ang regular nga buhaton sa isa ka family or sa isa ka tao, then he tend to model the behavior of the child. Diba? For example, kanang bata, moingon bitaw nga, moingon ang bata nga namalikas, ng bata kay namalikas, or diba, ni curse ang bata. So, mutana ka, di sa maka nakaawat anak day, di sa maka nakaawat anak doy. Not knowing nga kanang bata di ay nakadungog sa istorya sa iyang ginikanan, or na istorya sa iyang papa. So, that istorya sa iyang papa, so gi-process na sa bata, na iya na siyang kopyaon, di ba? Og makadungog ang bata, motend na siya og balik-balik sa storya. That child doesn't, or wa pa na siya kahibaw if the words she or he uttered is wrong or not. Di ba? So, iya pa na siyang i-process. So, munang if you have a toddler, if you have a child in your home, inyo din na siyang likayan nga makakita na siya og bad behavior. Tungod kay makapi man na niya para ang bata kay magkuan sa ilang middle finger, kanang gitawag nga tuog pakyo-pakyo. Yan na, di ba? So if you have that a toddler in your home, unya maginganay-ngana ka, makita na sa bata, they tend to imitate the behavior. So matingalang ka kaning tan-aw ni sa imong bata na anay, so nag middle finger na siya naingana. So diba, that is how the child learns the behavior. Okay? And if dili na siya makorek or dili na siya i-reprimand sa parent, ang masud sa iyang hunahuna, sakto ang iyang gibuhat. Okay? So that is also important. So kanang another factor is the mass media. Diba? Television is very common nowadays. It's our favorite pastime. So minsan sila nga kanang mass media, the film and television shows commonly depict violence. So diba, there are certain, diba, kanang gitawag na to og MTRCB. So there are genres that is not acceptable to children. So like for example, kanang violence. So, di ba, og mutanaw tag TV, naay bata, niya magira na, magsigi po na sila og mag-action-action. Because they imitate the behavior nga unsay nakita sa ilahang gitanaw. Mao na siya example og social learning theory. Mass media greatly influences also the behavior of a criminal, a person, diba, to the criminal. Nganong crimes are committed. Diba? Kung ingon ang child, nagpusil-pusil ang bata. So if wala na siya guidance sa parents, if moingon ang parents nga ayaw anak doy, sayop na siya, di na mausakto sa TV ra na, that is only a fiction. It's not in the real life. So na-process na sa bata nga that behavior is dili sakto. Okay? So that is an example of a social learning theory. So behaviors are imitated modeled, observed by a child or a person. So, di ba? So, if that is not reprimanded, so, pwede na siyang mabutang sa ilang hunahuna nga that is sakto. Okay? So, next. What are the factors that contributes violence and aggression? So, unsa kuno yung mga factors that help produce violence and aggression. So, first, an event that heightens arousal such as being frustrated or provoked through physical assault or verbal abuse. So, kana kunong social learning theories have said that there are factors that help produce violence and aggression. So, kana mo ingon ta nga nganong nabuhat man na niya, nganong iya man na siyang napatay man na niya. So, not knowing nga before na niya nabuhat, he was already provoked, he was verbally abused. Mura bag sa kadugayan niya nga nagtimpi siya, mura na siya gnibuto. If that person, I think anyone or kita ta na naatay ability nga magpasensya. But if mapuno na, we tend to nga mo buto. Muna siyang makakosta og violence or aggression. Diba? We tend to be patient, but if we are being provoked or we feel frustrated, so we tend to resort into violence and aggression. Diba? So that is true. Next, aggressive skills, learned aggressive responses pick up from observing others, either personally or through mass media. So, aggressive skills can also be copied, imitated, observed, modeled either through our family members or through the mass media. So, if the child, so, di ba, during sa childhood sa bata, makakita siya nga ang iyang silingan, ang mag-asawa nga silingan, makita siya nga sigig away. So, sige og magsinumbagay. So, when he also turns like ingana nga edad, he tend to imitate the behavior because it's already in our unconscious mind. Diba? So, if that certain scenario nga makakita siya, again, he tend to imitate the behavior. Next, expected outcomes, the belief that aggression will somehow be rewarded. So, reward can come in the form of reduced tension or anger, some financial reward, enhanced self-esteem, or the praise from others. So, expected outcomes, the belief that aggression will somehow be rewarded. So, if natay belief that aggression will somehow be rewarded. So, rewards can come in the form of reduced tension of anger. So, we tend to release our emotions, some financial reward, enhanced self-esteem, or the praise from others. Next, parang mingon ta nga praise from others. Ako yawa kayo. Tawhana, oy, mo ni sakto kay ngano kung gibiyay-biyayan ka, di ba? So, that is a form of reward. So, after you resort to violence and aggression, so you tend to have high self-esteem. Kani, dili na ko nila maunsa kay nakita na nila nga ingani ko. So, di ba? Suwayi og kuan. Ingana. So, that is one of the factors that a certain person resort to violence and aggression. Next, consistency of behavior with values, the belief gained from observing others, the aggression is justified and appropriate given the circumstances of the current situation. So, the consistency of behavior with values, the belief gained from observing others, so the aggression is justified and appropriate given the circumstances of the current situation. So, that are the 4 factors that help produce violence and aggression according to social learning theories. Next, So what are the steps in social learning process? So there are certain steps that explains social learning process. First, we have attention. So attention, in order for an individual to learn something, he must pay attention to the features of the modeled behavior. So this steps of the social learning process, this is now how the person or an individual adapts the behavior sa iyahang gi-observe. Okay? So the first thing to do is to pay attention. So, di ba? Di ba og naa kay ganahan or naa kay salida nga ganahan tan-awon. Di ba, you tend to focus on that. You tend to pay attention. You tend to sa may laing term. You tend to dili ka pa isturbo. So you focus on the behavior. Like for example, ang imuhang idol nga si Blackpink, for example, isa ka member, anad siya mosayaw. If you want to imitate or if you want to learn the steps nga iyang gisayaw, so di ba, you focus your attention to it. Kay gusto man siya nimo kopyaon. So if you want to copy or if you want to learn what she is doing, you are paying attention to that person. Okay, that is also the same with social learning process. You tend to pay attention. So let us put this in a scenario where this processes involves a child. Okay? So ang child, no, wala pa na siya buot. He is still considered a blank slate. We can say that the child is still butang ato 1 year old or 2 years old, and toddler pa na siya. So wala pa na siya kaayoy nahibawan. Diba? So let us put it in a scenario that this process is nahitabo sa isa ka bata. Diba? So he now pays the attention. Diba? Matinga mo nga ang bata gatanaw na siya nimo. He tend to process nga iyahang natanawan. So first, again, he pays attention. So paying attention, he needs to pay attention because anything that distracts his attention is going to have a negative effect on observational learning. So if the model interesting or there is a novel aspect to the situation, an individual is far more likely to dedicate his full attention to learning. Accordingly, there are various factors that increase or decrease the amount of attention paid by a person. These are distinctiveness, affective valence, prevalence, complexity, or functional value. So one's characteristic like sensory capacities, arousal level, perceptual self, past reinforcement affect attention. So if that child was distracted, or when a person was distracted from his attention, naana siya negative effect sa iyang observational learning. Okay? So next, we have now the retention. So after he pays attention, he now retained the information that he was or that he observed. So humans need to be able to remember details of the behavior in order to learn and later reproduce the behavior. Diba? So, the ability to store information is also an important part of the learning process. Diba? When you so, balik ta sa example ni katong imong ni pay attention ka kay gusto ka makahibaw sa stepping sa katong isa ka member sa Blackpink. For example. So, after you watch the video, you tend now to retain the steps. Imo na siyang huna-hunaon or imo na siyang i-remember ba? Ingani ang sunod, ingani. mukiay ka, nga na. So, you tend to retain the information or the behavior that you have learned or kanang during sa imuhang pagtanaw. So, muna siya retention. So, retention can be affected by a number of factors also, but the ability to pull up information later and act on it is vital to observational learning. So remembering what an individual paid attention to may include symbolic coding, mental images, cognitive organization, symbolic rehearsal, or motor rehearsal. So it can be in the form of mental images. So that is one of the tools used to retain information or to retain the information nga has paid attention to the model, so he tend to have that mental images in his mind. So that is the way he retained some information from his model. Okay? Next, after you have that retention, you are now going to reproduce. So, in reproducing a behavior, an individual must organize his or her responses in accordance with the model behavior. So, this ability can improve with practice. Once an individual has paid attention to the model and retained the information, it is time to actually perform the behavior he observed. So, muna na siya. Further practice of the learned behavior leads to improvement and skill advancement, reproducing the image including physical capabilities and self-observation or reproduction. So, kani ko ng reproduction, this ability can improve with practice. So, that is now how we learn our environment or how we learn information. So, 'di ba? After nimo mentally rehearsed ang stepping sa katong member sa Blackpink para maawat nimo, you tend now to reproduce. Practice na kag sayaw-sayaw at ubang sa samin, mag-practice because that practice is the ability on how you properly reproduce the modeled behavior. Okay? So, the last one is motivation. So, finally, in order for observational learning to be successful, a person has to be motivated to imitate the behavior that has been modeled. So, if you are not motivated daw, so there must be an incentive or motivation driving the individual's reproduction of the behavior. Even if all the above factors are present, the person will not engage in the behavior without motivation. So, paanang example na to sa if you are not motivated. So, 'di ba? That motivation can be rewarded by grand prize. So, 'di ba? Nag-rehearse ko tungod kay gusto ko mo-appeal sa sayaw. That rewards the reward that you acquired from that certain contest or ingana, that becomes now your motivation. Okay? So, reinforcement and punishment play an important role in motivation. So, for example, kanang bata. If your child or kanang bata, once nga muingon ang makakita ang bata nga if ipakita niya ang iyang perfect score sa iyang test or sa iyang activity, tagaan siya og reward sa iyang mama. For example, inay bata ipakita ang perfect score siya sa iyang quiz or sa iyang exam or sa iyang activity. Unya ang mama nihatag og a form of reward. Mingon siya naay lollipop tungod kay na perfect ka. That reward becomes a motivation nga kanang bata 100 na siya kapunay. Kay balo man siya nga once muhatag sa sayang mama og papel nga perfect, naa na siya lollipop. Okay? That is how social learning process works. Okay? So, that also can be explained bisan pa og dagko na ta. Diba? Like, for example, kani, if a person sees another student rewarded with extra credit for being to class on time, he might start to show up a few minutes early each day. So, having a good reason to imitate may include motives such as, so, yan na, for example, imong classmate, sayo kay siya moabot. Diba? May yun ang, say, i-praise siya ni teacher nga, our most punctual is si Miss Dinaro, for example. So, we say most punctual. Unya, kanang naamay, there are person nga imitate si Miss Dinaro or muawat ba? Because they know that when they perform acts, they are also being praised. That praise is already a reinforcement and in a form of praise, or that is a reward, diba? So, imitating behavior or copying your model or copying or imitating, observing the learned behavior can also naapo na siya good and bad nga benefits, diba? So, if you modeled a good person, you tend to also reinforce good. But if you model a certain behavior that is bad, so you tend to be punished. So, diba? Reinforcement and punishment plays an important role in motivation. Balik ta sa bata. Mayroon ang bata nga inigbalik niyag pakita sa iyang papel, one mistake or two mistake. Unya, pagpakita niya, nasuko iyang mama. Nganong two mistake? Nganong maora man imong score? Nganing ana. So, the behavior, dili na siya utruhon sa bata. Kay kabalo naman siya, if dili siya ma-100, kasabaan siya sa iyang mama. So, the behavior was punished, was reprimanded. So, he knows that if he will give his mother a perfect score, so na siya rewards after. But if he shows his mother not a perfect score, so it was punished. So, diba? That is how social learning process works. So, next, after the social learning process, so na natay gitawag og types of learning social process. So there are many types of how social learning process is explained, diba? So first we have the differential association theory. So differential association theory was introduced by Edwin H. Sutherland in the late 1930s. So he stated that criminal behavior was the result of normal social process, resulting when individuals associated with the wrong type of people, often by no fault on their part. So, diba? A person becomes delinquent because of an excess of definitions favorable to the violation of law over definitions unfavorable to violation of law. So, kaniko nung Edwin H. Sutherland, according to him, by associating with crime-oriented people, whether they are parents or peers, an individual will inevitably choose to engage in criminal behavior because that is what he or she has learned. So he proposed a theoretical framework that explained how criminal values could be culturally transmitted to individuals from their significant others. So, diba? Edwin H. Sutherland believed that a person, even if bad association or the way, or if you are associated with bad people, you tend to also perform that act because it is what you have learned. Okay? So muna siya differential association. So after Edwin H. Sutherland died, so his student his student Donald Cressy continued his work. So according to Donald Cressy, crime was a function of the inadequacy of people in the lower class. So, diba? As what I've said, lower class has only limited resources, limited opportunities than the upper class. So, if that lower class is inadequate to their goals, or the resources are inadequate, so they tend to resort to crime. Okay? So, next, criminality stemmed neither from individual traits nor from socio-economic position. Instead, it is a function of a learning process that could affect any individual in any culture. So, this differential association theory, Sutherland used the dominant psychological theory of learning of his era, so as the basis for his theory of differential association. So this model was the classical conditioning. Two stimuli are linked together to produce a new learned response in a person or animal. So, kani ko nung classical conditioning assumes that animals as well as and respond people learn through associations between stimuli and responses. So organisms, animals, or people are somewhat passive actors in the process. So meaning that they simply receive in natural way to various forms of stimuli over time. So they learn to associate certain stimuli with certain responses. So when you have learned a certain stimuli, so you tend to so they associate a certain stimuli with a certain process. Like for example, kaning ato ang classical conditioning was developed by Ivan Pavlov, and ang kaning explanation sa classical conditioning, it's the experiment of Ivan Pavlov wherein he experimented this on a dog. So every time the bell is ring, the dog associated that it is already time for food. Diba? So Ivan Pavlov did was when he rings the bell, the dog will mudong sa iyahang tungod. Because ang pagtuo sa dog, tingkao na siya. So, di ba? So, that is classical conditioning. We tend to associate a certain stimuli with certain responses. So, di ba? So, that is how differential association theory by Edwin Sutherland was explained. So, what are the basic principles of differential association? So, kaning gitawag na to og this principle of association theory, as you have seen in the presentation, is kanang gitawag na to og differential association theory assumes that criminal behavior will occur when the definitions for crime outweigh the definition against crime. So we are later tackle that one. So what are the basic principles of differential association theory? So first, we have criminal behavior is learned. So Sutherland declared that criminal behavior is not inherited biologically, nor otherwise the result of any biological traits. So this statement differentiates Sutherland's theory from prior attempts to classify criminal behavior as an inherent characteristic. So by suggesting that delinquent and criminal behavior is learned, Sutherland implied that it can be classified in the same manner as any other learned behavior such as writing, painting, or writing. So Sutherland doesn't believe that criminal behavior is inherited biologically. Diba? Sutherland believes that if you are associated with bad people, with bad influences, you tend to learn the behavior nga bad. That is how Edwin Sutherland explained his theory on differential association. So, diba? So, he doesn't believe that criminal behavior is inherited or was inherited from our parents, nga na. So, dili na siya mutuo. He believed that criminal behavior is learned through association with bad people or through associating with others because you tend to learn the behavior. So, muna siya gitawag og social learning through differential association. Okay? So, next, number 2. Learning is a byproduct of interaction. So, there is definite interaction through a process of communication. So, hence, learning criminal behavior occurs through interpersonal interaction. So, Sutherland believed individuals do not start violating the law simply by living in a criminogenic environment or by manifesting personal characteristics such as low IQ or family problems associated with criminality. So, family, friends, and peers have the greatest influence on the deviant behavior and attitude development. So, relationship with these influential individuals color and control the way people interpret everyday events. So, kaning number 2, learning is a byproduct of interaction. So, Sutherland also does not believe that if you are living in a criminogenic environment or such as low IQ or family problems, so dili na siya maka-affect sa imuhang or dili na siya factor that you are considered or you are criminal or kanang gitawag na tuog it does not determine a certain person by these factors that he is a criminal or that he has or that he will commit a crime. So he stressed out that learning behaviors from family, from peers have the greatest influence on the deviant behavior and attitude development. So, this is true that mingon sila nga tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who you are. Diba? So if you are influenced by your peers, you tend to also do the same thing. So muna gingon nila, so muna gi-stress ni Sutherland that Sutherland said that criminal behavior is a byproduct of interaction. It is how you socialize to the people around you. So if you are socializing with bad people, so you tend to also do the same behavior. So that is how Sutherland explained the theory of differential association. So third, criminal techniques are learned. So this is also true. Learning criminal behavior involves acquiring techniques of committing the crimes, which are sometimes very complicated and very simple. This requires learning the specific direction of motives, drives, rationalization, and attitudes. Some kids may meet and associate how to be successful criminals and gain the greatest benefits for their criminal activities. So, when you are associated with bad people, para ninyo, that normal pickpocketing, that normal shoplifting is good. So, sabot-sabot mo, ingana. And if ikaw nga bagong salta, you tend to, kung gusto ka nga na kay friend, Diba? Moana sila, o gusto ka mo appeal sa among grupo, dapat mao ni imong buhaton. Diba? If you want to be included in a certain group of or a certain organization, so you tend to copy, or you tend to perform their behavior. Like for example, ikaw you want to be associated with a certain group, kay sa inyong school sikat kayo na sila nga grupo. So di ba? So gusto ka mo appeal, not knowing that the group is smoking, drinking, taking drugs, but still you want to be famous like that group. So di ba? So first day mo yana nga gusto ko mo appeal ninyo bay. Gusto ko mo appeal ninyo doy. So kung gusto ka mo appeal aring among kung gusto ka mo join sa among grupo, sigarilyo sa ingon pod ka nga. Ay dili ko kay bad na siya. Ingon si mama nga bad na siya. So ingon po tong yung laing grupo nga, ikaw bahala ka kung gusto ka mo appeal na mo, manigarilyo jud ka. Dili na siya pwede sa amo ang mobalibad ka. So nga na. So kintahay wala ka nila pugsa. Sige, appeal lang ka na mo, pero ingan na. So how many weeks nga sikag kuyog nila, there is a tendency that the techniques or the behavior nga imong gikuyog-kuyog mahibaw-an na siya nimo. Maunang sa sige nimo kuyog-kuyog bisan pa og dili ka manigarilyo, tungod kay ang imuhang friends nga gi-associate manigarilyo man, so tungod kay di ka gusto nga ma-behind nila, mo appeal sad ka og sigarilyo. So that is how Edwin Sutherland explained the association of a certain person. So, di ba? Criminal techniques or criminal behaviors is learned. So, muna siya example ni Edwin Sutherland. So, muna siya ang ihang pasabot. Next, number 4. Perceptions of legal code influence motives and drives. So, gaining knowledge of criminal behavior also involves learning whether to define laws as worthy of obedience or deserving of violation. So, the specific direction of motives and drives is learned from perceptions of various aspects of the legal code as being favorable and unfavorable. So, the reaction to social rules and laws is not uniform across society, and people constantly come into contact with others who maintain different views on the utility of obeying the legal code. So, some people they admire may openly disdain or flout the law or ignore its substance. So people experience what Sutherland calls culture conflict when they are exposed to different and opposing attitudes toward what is right and wrong, moral and immoral. So the conflict of social attitudes and culture norms is the basis for the concept of differential association. So kana kunong conflict sa imuhang social attitudes and social norm. So, cultural norm. Say for example, sa inyong, you are part of a certain tribe, for example. So, if you are already in the city, di ba, there are, sa inyong environment before, different na siya sa, environment from the province is different from the environment in the city. So, di ba? If sa inyong probinsya, bawal ni siya, sa inyong probinsya, alas 6 pa lang, nana mo sa inyong bahay, when you go to the city, alas 12 pa lang sa kadlawon, maopay, paggawas nimo sa imong gipuy-an. So, di ba? Inga na, there is a culture conflict. Muna siya giingon diri sa number 4. Perceptions of legal code influence motives and drive. So the conflict of social attitudes and culture norms is the basis for the concept of differential association. So, gaining knowledge of criminal behavior also involves learning whether to define laws as worthy of obedience or deserving violation. So, muna siya explanation ni Edwin Sutherland. So, number 5, differential associations may vary in frequency, duration, priority, and intensity. So, associations will likely have the greatest impact on one's views if they are of high frequency and duration. Takes place early in life and involve people whose views and friendship one values highly. So whether a person learns to obey the law or to disregard it is influenced by the quality of social interactions. Those of lasting duration have greater influence than those that are brief. Simply, frequent influence than those. Similarly, frequent contacts have greater effect than rare and haphazard contacts. So, kani ko nung differential association may vary in frequency. The way or if you are associated in the longer time, so you tend to be like her or you tend to learn his behavior than those person nga karyot ra nimo na ilhan or na karyot ra nimo na associate. So that is how, again, Edwin Sutherland explained the principles of differential association. Next, a person becomes delinquent because of an excess of definitions favorable to the violations of law over definitions unfavorable to the violation of law. So, muna ni akong giingon nga, ihana siyang i-timbang-timbang. So, in a weighing scale, kanina sa atong graphic example. So, this is the heart of Sutherland's differential association theory. So people will break the law if they develop more law-breaking attitudes than law-abiding attitudes. So weighing the two attitudes is illustrated in our graphic example. So these are the ideas that Edwin Sutherland explained in his differential association theory. So when you say sa isa ka weighing scale, natay ideas that prohibit crime and sa isa na atay ideas that justify crime. So, diba? So, sa pikas nga scale, natay play fair, don't be a bully, forgive and forget, turn the other cheek, evil is always punished, honesty is the best policy. So, these are the ideas nga prohibit nga dili ka mo commit of crimes. So, na example nga, ayaw na siya buhata, tagaan kag plus points kung nakasalangit. So that is the ideas that prevents you in the commission of the crime. So, diba? So naapoy sa pikas pod nga skill natay gitawag og ideas that justify crime. Cheating is okay. The end justifies the means. I don't get mad, I get even. So don't let anyone push you around. People should take drugs if they want to. So, 'di ba? Naay mauban nga tawo nga sige og moingon nga sige ra tag paningkamot. Unya wala tay kausbaran. So na may puy isa ka amigo nga moingon nga ari ta sa dali nga kwarta kaysa sige kag buwad anang adlaw niya gamay ra imong kita ari ta dali. So, 'di ba? So moingon ang isa ka tawo nga moingon ang magunahuna ang tawo. Asa ko ari ba ko sa legal nga parihara man makakwarta, dugay lang. Kung ari ko sa illegal makakwarta ko, dali ra hinuon siya. So, di ba? I-weigh na or timbangon na siya sa tao. If he gains or kanang gitawag na tuog excess definitions favorable to the violations of law. If he can gain something out from if he gains something favorable in the definition, if he violates the law, then over definitions unfavorable to the violation of law. So that is how Edwin Sutherland explains his theory or his heart of differential association theory. So the last is the process of learning criminal behavior by association with criminal involves all of the mechanisms involved in any learning process. So this suggests that learning criminal behavior patterns is similar to learning nearly all the patterns that is not a matter of mere imitation. So in sum, it argued that differential association theory holds that people learn criminal attitudes and behavior while in their adolescence from close and trusted friends and values and or relatives. So a criminal career develops if learned antisocial values and behaviors are not at least matched or exceed by conventional attitudes and behaviors. So criminal behavior is then learned in a process that is similar to learning any other human behavior. So association is if kanang-gingon na niyo nga differential association theory holds that people learn criminal attitudes and behavior while in their adolescence from close and trusted friends and or relatives. So, diba? So you learn criminal behavior while you are an adolescent. Ibutang nga to. You are 12, 13, 14, 15. So, nga na. So you have learned a certain criminal attitudes and behavior. So nga na kay na-learn nga criminal attitudes. So, a criminal career now starts if learned antisocial values and behaviors are not at least matched or exceed by conventional attitudes and behaviors. So, criminal behavior is then learned in a process that is similar to learning any other human behavior. So, if that criminal behavior doesn't match or dili siya kanang nagtugma ba to the learned antisocial values and behaviors are not at least matched or exceed by conventional values, so mo na nang mag-start na ang atong gitawag og criminal career. Okay? So that is how differential association works. Okay? Next, let's go with another theory. We have the differential reinforcement theory. So, this balance of anticipated or actual rewards and punishment that follow or are consequences of behavior. So, when you say reinforcement, it's either rewards and punishment. Okay? So, differential reinforcement theory is most or popularized by Ronald Akers. Akers and Burgess presented in 1966 an article entitled A Differential Association Reinforcement Theory of Criminal Behavior. So, to look at the mechanisms that lead individuals to either continue or desist from getting involved in delinquency, Akers' learning theory goes beyond looking solely at learned definitions favorable. So, mo na siya nga, this theory balances the anticipated or actual rewards and punishment that follow or are consequences of behavior. So, this perspective assumes people are born with a blank slate and thus must be socialized and taught how to behave through modeling and various forms of conditioning like operant and classical conditioning. So, mo kanini si in order for the person to learn a certain behavior, so he should be socialized in the form of conditioning like operant and classical conditioning. So, accordingly, behavior is strengthened or encouraged through reward as a positive reinforcement and avoidance of punishment as a negative reinforcement. So, this theory of differential reinforcement can also be related to the study of operant psychology. a theory of learning that asserts behavior is governed by its consequences. So the use of reinforcement increases the frequency of desirable behavior, and punishment decreases the frequency of undesirable behavior. So, for example, kanang gitawag na tuog pagpasa sa balaod na death penalty. Death penalty by hanging. Diba? If the people can see that if they committed a crime and the penalty is worse, public shaming, like ibitayon ka through execution in the public places, so kana sila mahadlok na sila. Their actions was deterred by the punishment nga ilang nakita. Muna siya gitawag og differential reinforcement theory. When a certain or the punishment decreases the frequency of undesirable behavior. So muna siya ang differential reinforcement theory. The use of reinforcement and punishment. So next we have, last is the neutralization theory. So neutralization theory was popularized by David Matza and Graham Syke. So they are the main proponents. They view the process of becoming a criminal as a learning experience in which potential delinquents and criminal master techniques. So Matza argues that even the most committed criminals and delinquents are not involved in criminality all the time. They also attend schools, family functions, and religious services. So this process, which they drift, refers to the movement from one extreme of behavior to another, resulting in behavior that is sometimes unconventional, free or deviant, and other times constrained and sober. So neutralization theory can also be called drift theory because not all criminals are like criminal na jud ang ilahang binuhatan. A certain criminal tends to also join public functions, join family gatherings, nga. So this enables them to counterbalance or neutralize conventional values due to subterranean balance. So they maintain that most delinquents and criminals hold conventional values. Sama ng conventional values. Those are the values that is learned from their parents, mga good personality, nga na, and attributes, but master techniques that enable them to neutralize these values and drift back and forth between illegitimate and conventional behavior. So even though they commit crime, they drift or they still go back to their conventional values. So muna siyang gitawag og neutralization theory. So they tend to counterbalance or neutralize conventional values. So what are the theoretical models of neutralization theory? So first, criminals sometimes voice a sense of guilt over their illegal acts. So they still feel guilt because they are not, or kanabang gitawag na tuog, kanabang itong akong giingon ganihagat, those criminals has still conventional values learned from their parents, from the people around them, from the church, ingana. Diba? Even though they are criminal, they attend church, mo nang they feel guilt. Napasilay konsensya ba? Napasilay, nakafeel pa sila og guilt. Number 2, offenders frequently respect and admire honest, law-abiding people. So, diba? They tend to respect and admire law-abiding people. So 3, criminals draw a line between those whom they can victimize and those whom they cannot. So members of similar ethnic groups, churches, and neighborhood are often off limits. So say for example, ang ilahang i-victimize, dili sila mo pili og pare. Because they know that the priest or the religion or kanang ilahang pagtuo sa Ginoo apil na sa ilahang gitawag na tuog conventional values. It is what the behavior they learned from they were a child. So, diba? Number 4, criminals are not immune to the demands of conformity. So, kaning gitawag na tuog drift theory or kaning neutralized theory counterbalances your conventional values. So, mo nang gitawag na tuog those people that influences their conventional values. So, dili mo na siya gitawag og off limits. Only those person nga gitawag na tuog does not influence their values. Muna ta siya gitawag nila og mga victims. Like for example, sa akong giingon ganiha, if the criminals still go to church, nga na. So that certain people or the church off limits na siya. So, diba? Because they still have conventional values in them. Because they learned only the criminal behavior. So, muna siya tawag na tuog neutralization theory. So, what are the techniques of neutralization theory? So, first, we have the denial of responsibility. So, young offenders sometimes claim their unlawful acts were simply not their fault. Criminal acts resulted from forces beyond their control or were kanang gitawag na tuog accident. So, muna siya first technique of neutralization. Wala na nako so kana mga mostly these are young offenders. So, diba? Denial of responsibility. Number 2, denial of harm, injury to anyone. So, by denying the wrongful acts, criminals are able to neutralize illegal behavior. Example, stealing is viewed as borrowing. Vandalism is considered mischief that has gotten out of hand. So, diba? Muna siya techniques of neutralization. So, they tend to neutralize illegal behavior. Number 3, denial of harm or injury to anyone. So, criminals sometimes neutralize wrongdoing by maintaining that the victim of crime has it coming. So, vandalism may be directed against a disliked teacher or neighborhood. Homosexual may be beaten up by a gang because of their behavior is considered offensive. So, ignoring the right of absent victim like stealing from the unseen owner of the department store. So, diba? Denial of harm to the victim. Like for example, nangawat ka tungod kay wa man ka kitaog na ay nagbantay. So, diba? There has something to be a denial of the person committing the crime. So, muna tayo gitawag na to neutralization. Number 4, condemners. So, an offender may view the world as a corrupt place with a dog-eat-dog code. So, by shifting the blame to others, criminals are able to repress the feeling that their own acts are wrong. So, may ana sila nga ang parihara mami og gibuhat, wala man lagi siya gikuan. Wala man lagi siya gipriso niya. Nganong ako ingana. So, 'di ba? They condemn the condemners. So, 'di ba? An offender may view the world as a corrupt place with a dog-eat-dog code. So, muna siya gitawag na tuog neutralization theory. Last is the appeal to higher authorities or loyalties. So, novice criminals often argue that they are caught in the dilemma of being loyal to their own peer group while at the same time attempting to abide the rules of the larger group. So, the needs of the group take precedence over the rules of the society because the demands of the former are immediate and localized. So, in summary, the theory of neutralization presupposes a condition that allows people to neutralize unconventional norms and values by using such slogans such as, "I didn't mean to do it," "I didn't really hurt anybody," They had it coming to them, "Everybody is speaking on me and I didn't do it myself." So this excuse allow people to drift into criminal modes of behavior because there are some things of denial. 'Di ba? Oh, nangawat ko, may mag-ikapobre ni siya sa kanang baligya, gamay raman to. So, 'di ba? There are something there is a denial or there is a drift from unconventional values. So that is how social learning processes or the social learning theories evolves. So that is, so our next topic will be social control theories, and I will discuss this also. So I will be discussing the part 2 so later. So thank you for watching. Bye.